The night Maribel was traded for $27. Winter had already decided who would live and who would disappear. Dry Creek, Montana Territory. A place where the wind didn't just bite, it erased people. Mara was 19, too young to be called a woman, too broken to still be a girl. Her mother didn't cry when she handed her over, didn't hesitate, didn't even look at her twice, just counted the coins and shut the door. By morning, Mara was already on a wagon heading north, 2.5 days into the mountains, with a man who barely spoke and a contract she had never agreed to. She wasn't being married. She wasn't being rescued. She was being delivered. The road to Red Flint Ranch was narrow, carved between frozen cliffs and silence. Snow swallowed the tracks behind them, like the world didn't care where she went, as long as she didn't come back. Mara kept her hands wrapped around a small feed sack. Everything she owned was inside. A spare dress, a needle, and a photograph she refused to look at anymore. The man driving the wagon finally spoke once, just before they reached the ridge. "Jonah Creed doesn't like trouble." Mara didn't answer. She had learned something already. In places like this, silence kept you alive longer than words. When the ranch finally appeared, it didn't look like a home. It looked like something that had survived too much. A crooked fence, a half-collapsed barn, smoke rising from a chimney that shouldn't still be standing, and a man waiting outside, still watching. Jonah Creed, tall, broad-shouldered, a face cut by wind, time, and something colder than both. His eyes didn't move when the wagon stopped, didn't soften when he saw her. He just looked at her the way a man looks at something he paid for, but wasn't sure he wanted. The driver tossed down her sack. "She's yours." No introductions, no explanations, just a transaction completed. Mara stepped down slowly. Her boots hit frozen ground, and for the first time she realized something was wrong. Jonah wasn't looking at her like a man expecting a worker or a wife. He was looking at her like a mistake. "I didn't order this," he said. "I asked for a hand, not a girl." The wagon didn't wait. It turned and left. Mara stood there with nowhere to go, no way back, no one who wanted her. The wind rose behind her, pushing her forward, like even the world had decided this was where she belonged now. Jonah studied her for a few seconds longer, then turned toward the house. "You can stay tonight," he said flatly. "After that, we'll see." Mara didn't move at first, because she understood something he didn't. She wasn't here for one night. She wasn't here by choice, and she wasn't leaving. Not this time. Because if this place didn't become her home, it would become her grave. That night, the temperature dropped even further. Inside the cabin, the fire burned low, just enough to keep death outside the door. Mara sat near the edge of the room, not too close to the fire, not too far from the door. Close enough to survive, far enough to leave if she had to. Jonah didn't speak much. He moved like a man used to silence. Set a pot on the stove, cut meat without looking at her, as if she were already part of the room, but not something he needed to acknowledge. "You eat," he said finally. Not an offer, not kindness, just instruction. Mara nodded once, waited, watched him take the first bite before she touched anything. Old habit. The food was simple, salted meat, bread gone hard at the edges, but it was warm, and that alone felt like something dangerous, something she could get used to. "You know how to work?" Jonah asked without looking up. "Yes." "What kind?" "Anything that keeps me here." That made him pause, just for a second. Then he looked at her, really looked this time, at her hands, rough, scarred, not soft like someone raised easy. "You've worked before." "Since I was a child." Silence again, but different now, measured. Jonah leaned back slightly, studying her like he was trying to decide something he didn't want to admit. "I don't need trouble," he said. "I don't cause any." "That's not what I mean." Mara held his gaze, didn't look away, didn't shrink, didn't apologize. "I don't bring anything with me," she said quietly. "No past, no people, no one coming." "Then why'd they send you here?" That question hung between them, heavy. Mara looked down at her hands, just for a moment. "Because no one else would take me." No tears, no trembling voice, just truth. Jonah exhaled slowly, like that answer told him more than he wanted to know. "You sleep there," he said, nodding toward a corner near the stove. "I'll take the chair." Mara shook her head. "You own this place. And you're still standing." Another pause, longer this time. Then a faint shift. Not kindness, not yet, but something less cold. "Take the blankets," he said. "That's not a request." Mara didn't argue again. Later that night, the wind howled against the walls, the kind of sound that reminded you the world outside didn't care if you made it. Mara lay awake, eyes open, listening. Not to the storm, to him. Jonah hadn't slept. She could hear it. The shift of wood, the slow pacing, like a man who didn't trust silence because of what it brought back. Then a sharp sound, a chair scraping, a breath pulled too fast. Mara sat up slightly. He wasn't just awake, he was remembering something. She didn't speak, didn't move, because she understood that, too. Some nights weren't meant for talking, only surviving. By morning, the storm hadn't eased, and neither had the distance between them. But something had changed. Not enough to trust, but enough to stay. By the third day, the storm still hadn't passed. Snow buried the fence line. The barn door wouldn't open without force, and food was no longer something they could waste. "You ever worked cattle?" Jonah asked. Mara shook her head. "No." He nodded once. "Then you learn fast." No softness, no reassurance, just expectation. Outside, the cold hit like a wall. The wind cut through layers like they meant nothing. Jonah tied a rope from the cabin to the barn. "Don't let go," he said. "I won't." The snow swallowed sound, swallowed direction. Without that rope, you didn't get lost. You disappeared. Inside the barn, the air was warmer, but heavier. Cattle shifted restlessly, their breath thick in the air. Fear had a smell. Mara moved carefully, watching him first, then copying. How he broke the ice in the trough, how he spread hay, how he moved without wasting strength. She didn't ask questions. She learned by watching. Jonah noticed. Of course he did. He just didn't say it, until a low sound cut through the barn. A cow, down, struggling. Jonah moved fast. "Too early," he muttered. The animal thrashed weakly. The storm had forced it. Mara stepped closer. "What do you need?" He looked at her, surprised. "You ever done this before?" "No, but I don't freeze when it matters." Something flickered in his eyes. "Hold the lantern." That was all. Permission. The next hour was brutal. Cold hands, slippery ground, the animal fighting and fading at the same time. Jonah worked with steady force. Mara stayed beside him, holding light, steadying, listening. No panic, no hesitation, just presence. And when the calf finally came, small, shaking, alive, the barn fell quiet. Mara let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Jonah leaned back slightly, watching her now. Different. "You didn't run," he said. "I told you." Silence again, but it wasn't empty anymore. On the way back, the wind hit harder. The rope snapped tight between them. Mara slipped, her foot lost under packed snow. For a split second, she vanished into white. Jonah caught her. His hand locked around her arm, pulling her back hard against him. Too close. Closer than either of them expected. She could feel his breath. Fast, controlled, but not calm. For a moment, neither moved. Then he let go, quick, like contact burned. "Watch your footing," he said, rougher than before. Mara nodded, but something had shifted. Not safety, not yet, but awareness of him, of herself, of the space between them. Back inside, the fire felt different, warmer, too warm. Jonah sat at the table, hands still, like he was thinking about something he didn't want to name. Mara moved quietly, setting things in place, but she could feel it too. That moment, that closeness, that line that had just been crossed. Neither of them spoke about it, but neither of them forgot. Because in a place like this, you don't notice someone unless they start to matter. The storm broke on the 6th morning. Not gently, not kindly. It just stopped. The sky turned pale, the wind fell silent, and the world outside the cabin looked untouched, like nothing had tried to kill them at all. Jonah stepped out first, scanning the land. The fence was half gone, the trail buried, but the ranch still stood. Mara followed, slow, careful. For the first time, she could see beyond survival. The valley stretched wide, white, endless, and for a moment it didn't feel like a prison. It felt like possibility. That feeling didn't last. Jonah saw it first. Tracks. Not animal. Horse. Fresh. His jaw tightened. They shouldn't be here. Mara's chest tightened. Who? Jonah didn't answer right away. Then, low, flat, men who don't ask twice. By midday, they arrived. 3 riders, dark coats, slower than they needed to be, like men who already believed they owned whatever they were riding toward. Mara stood beside the porch, still, watching. She knew that look. She had seen it before. The one in front smiled first, thin, cruel. "Well now," he called out, "didn't expect company out here, Creed." Jonah didn't move, didn't step forward, didn't step back. "State your business." The man's eyes slid to Mara, slow, deliberate. "That your new help?" A pause, then, "Or something else." Mara felt it, that shift, the air tightening, waiting. Jonah stepped forward, just enough to block their line. "She works here." The man laughed, low, mocking. "Funny thing about girls like that, they don't just end up places like this by accident." Mara didn't flinch, didn't look away, but something inside her went cold. Jonah's voice dropped. "You're done talking." Silence snapped tight. The second man shifted in his saddle, hand near his belt. Testing. The leader raised a hand slightly, stopping him, for now. "We're heading through," he said. "Storm hit hard. Lost supplies." A lie. Too smooth. Too easy. Jonah knew it. Mara knew it. "You pass through, then," Jonah said. "You don't stop." The man smiled again, wider this time. "We'll see." They rode past slowly, too slowly, eyes lingering, memorizing. Then gone. Mara exhaled, but it didn't feel like relief. It felt like warning. "They'll come back," she said quietly. Jonah didn't deny it. "No," he said, "they will." Silence settled again, but not the same silence as before. This one had weight, expectation. Jonah turned toward the barn. "Get inside. Stay there." Mara didn't move. "I don't hide." He stopped, slowly turned back, something sharp in his eyes now. "This isn't about pride. It's about survival." Mara stepped closer, not backing down. "I've survived worse." That landed, harder than anything else she'd said. Jonah studied her, long, careful. Then a shift, small but real. "Then you listen," he said, "and you stay close." Not an order, a warning. That night the fire burned higher. The rifles stayed within reach, and neither of them slept. Because somewhere beyond the dark, those men were waiting. And this time, the storm wasn't the danger. They were. They came back after midnight. No warning, no voices, just the sound of boots in snow. Mara heard it first, a shift outside. Too slow to be wind, too deliberate to be anything else. She sat up instantly. They're here. Jonah was already moving, rifle in hand, eyes sharp, fully awake, like he had never slept at all. A shadow crossed the window, then a knock. Not polite, not patient, a demand. Jonah stepped toward the door. Mara moved beside him. He glanced at her. "Stay behind me." She didn't argue, but she didn't step back either. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, and them. 3 men, same as before, but different now. Less patient, more certain. The leader smiled. "Knew you wouldn't mind company." Jonah didn't lower the rifle. "You were told to keep riding." The man shrugged. "Changed my mind." His eyes slid past Jonah to Mara. "That one," he said softly. "She's worth more than you think." Something snapped, not loud, not visible, but final. Jonah stepped forward. "She's not yours." The man laughed, low, dangerous. "Ain't yours either." Silence broke, fast, violent. The second man moved first, hand going for his gun. Jonah fired. One shot, clean. The man dropped into the snow. Everything exploded after that. Shouting, gunfire, movement. Mara didn't freeze, didn't hesitate. She grabbed the second rifle, just like she'd seen him do. The third man rushed forward, too close, too fast. She fired. The recoil hit hard, but not enough to stop her. He went down. Silence, sudden, heavy. The leader stood alone now. No smile left, just calculation. He backed up slowly, step by step. "This ain't finished," he muttered. Then he turned and disappeared into the dark. Gone. The night went still again, like it had never been broken. Mara lowered the rifle, her hands steady. Jonah looked at her, really looked. Not like before, not like a mistake, like something he understood now. "You stayed," he said. She met his eyes. "I told you." Silence, but this time it wasn't distance. Jonah stepped closer, careful, like crossing something unseen. "You could have run." "There's nowhere left to run." That hit deeper than anything else, because he knew it was true. And for the first time, he didn't see that as weakness. He saw it as strength. "You're not leaving," he said. Not a question. Mara shook her head, slow, certain. Good. A pause, then softer. Because neither am I. Morning came quiet, cold, clear, the kind of morning that followed something final. They buried what needed burying, didn't speak about it, didn't have to. By noon, the ranch was still standing, and so were they. Mara stood on the porch, watching the valley, not as someone passing through, but as someone staying. Jonah stepped beside her, close, not distant anymore, not unsure. Red Flint Ranch, he said quietly, needs 2 people. Mara looked at him, then out at the land. I'm not here to be saved. I know. I'm here to build something. Jonah nodded once. That makes 2 of us. The wind moved across the valley, softer now, warmer. And for the first time, this place didn't feel like survival. It felt like a beginning.